The people of the public wants to know where Ziyah is. Are y'all gonna tell us? Or y'all gonna stop playing games? Huh? How you miss your baby? You don't miss your grandbaby? Huh? You don't care about your grandbaby?
Before we get into the official records that I received regarding King, watch Jarvis Butts' reaction as the detectives tell him that his business associate King is not the only one who said Ziyah Harris was at the auto shop on January the 9th, 2024 before she vanished without a trace. Now pay close attention to how Jarvis reacts when he hears who else said Ziyah was at the auto shop.
King wasn't the only one though that said that. Okay, there was the other lady that you're related to. That said, yeah, she was at the shop there and I believe in the family. Your sister was in the shop. Sister was in the shop and she says, you don't have a dog in the family? Because my sister, like I said, my sister, like, she found out she right. I think sure. I mean, my sister works not too far. Yes, and anytime my sister it's her anytime. She never have to know or like on a weekend, she don't want a weekend answer the phone. I always serve her first. This is last
Now, one of the times that his niece was at the shop was, you said, on January the 9th.
First time I've seen her by herself, yes.
And that's because y'all picked her up on Harper?
Yes.
Did Mr. Butts seem surprised that he saw her?
I'm not sure. I couldn't really, we was riding. I wasn't really paying attention to his expression. He just said, hey, there go my niece. I didn't see her, so he pointed her out to me.
And at that time, you only knew her as his niece, right?
Yes.
You didn't have any idea what her name was at that time?
No.
Now, contrary to popular belief, many people think that at Jarvis Butts' preliminary hearing, that his defense, or maybe Jarvis, was unaware that King and Jarvis' own sister had told police that Ziyah Harris was at the auto shop on January the 9th of 2024. So many people believe that Jarvis was shocked by the testimony, which is not true, because as you heard in the clip, police confronted Jarvis with statements from King and Jarvis' sister, both saying Ziyah was at the auto shop on January the 9th, 2024, which is the date that she vanished. Now, as you probably noticed, Jarvis tends to speak very low and mumble throughout most of the interrogation. There's not much I can do to clean up that audio, which is why I only played a short portion. But the significance of that clip is this. Police directly confronted Jarvis with what King and his own sister said. And the most he responded with was that his sister works not too far away. Did you catch his reaction when the police brought up that his family member said that Ziyah was at the shop? He looked almost surprised that his own sister placed Ziyah at the shop. Now, what are your thoughts about that? Now, before we get into the official documents that I obtained on King, I want you to watch this clip. A lot of people have questioned why King is not facing charges. At one point, a murder charge briefly appeared under his name on the Michigan court website, and many believed it was tied to Ziyah. Now, her cousin, Ziyah Harris' cousin Roxy, came forward to clarify that the murder charge was a typo. Listen to this.
Not lie about King being charged with murder because I can put the screenshot up. Can I change my effect in the middle of my live? Because I can show you the screenshot where I sent it to the cop and I said, does this have to do with Ziyah? And she told me no, they put the wrong charge on him. Baby, I keep a receipt. Stop playing.
From when I talked to the detective or what have you, she said that it was a typo or what have you, but I mean, it's still up there. So I don't know what that is in regards to. So I really don't check up on him. I just look at Jarvis stuff.
All right.
Now, let me clarify. King was never charged in connection to the Ziyah Harris case. Although there was a murder charge briefly listed under his name, the detective told Roxy, Ziyah Harris' cousin, that it was a typo. What are your thoughts about that? That charge has since disappeared, and King was never formally charged. He has since been released from prison in July of 2025. Now, if you've been following the case here on my channel, then you know I've been doing a deep dive into Ziyah's disappearance, and that prosecutors have only charged one person, and that's Jarvis Butts. Now, some of you may be wondering, what exactly do prosecutors believe the motive is? Prosecutors allege that Jarvis Butts had been involved in an inappropriate relationship with 13-year-old Ziyah Harris and that she was pregnant. They say Jarvis knew his time was running out because he was scheduled to turn himself in to serve a 1-year sentence on an unrelated charge, and that's when they believe he came up with a plan. Now, according to prosecutors, both Jarvis Butts' Google search history and the text now messages between him and Ziyah laid everything out. On November the 27th, 2023, Ziyah texts Jarvis saying she couldn't keep doing the gym stuff with the baby and that she'll fail gym class. It was a clear reminder that she was pregnant and that Jarvis had a problem he needed to solve. Then came January the 9th, 2024, the day she vanished. Ziyah went to school and she told a substitute teacher she wasn't feeling well. It was later reported that Ziyah collapsed, but despite that, she never received the help she needed at school. She still got on the school bus that afternoon, and she hasn't been seen since. Now, this date, January the 9th, also happens to be the same day Jarvis was originally scheduled to turn himself in for that 1-year sentence, but somehow he got that date pushed back. Many now suspect that Ziyah's collapse at school may have been linked to an at-home procedure Jarvis attempted, one that didn't go as planned. Now, even the judge noted that she believes Jarvis may have tried to handle things himself before the situation spiraled. And for those of you wondering, where does King come into all of this? Well, investigators say that Ziyah was last seen in a vehicle with both Jarvis and King on January the 9th, 2024. That makes King one of the last people to see her alive. And because of that, along with the murder charge that briefly appeared under his name before Ziyah vanished, many have continued to question why King's parole was violated. So now we're finally going to get some answers. Now, this first document that I'm going to show you was just a mugshot that they provided, and this is public information, so I'm not showing anything that should not be shown on YouTube. And it's from the Michigan Department of Corrections, and it states his name, the date that this mugshot was captured, which is on February the 19th, 2020. So this was part of the requested documentation that I received. Now, moving forward, this second sheet that I'm going to show you is his orientation checklist. So now, if you take a look at this orientation checklist, prisoner, this is an official document from the Michigan Department of Corrections. Now, if you look at the top of the form, the facility is listed as Central Michigan STF, is what it states there. And then if you look here, it says the document shows that he arrived at the facility on July the 11th, 2024. And his orientation took place a few days later on July the 15th of 2024. Now, the reason I'm showing you this document and the significance of it is it confirms the exact date he was transferred into prison custody. Now, keep in mind, because this was a parole violation, he was likely being held at the county jail first, and once the violation was reviewed and processed, he was transferred to this facility to begin serving time. Now, this checklist here, it also outlines some programs or some areas that they covered with him during the orientation. So it says that they explained the healthcare services, how he can get healthcare services. It explained the disciplinary process, the grievance process, identified programs that was available for him, which would have been significant to King, as you will learn, because King also had to go before the parole board. So some of these programs are things that he may have wanted to complete because when he went to the parole board, which you'll see that he highlighted some programs and things. So it also says identify the housing unit management team, just pretty standard information. Again, the significance is that it shows that he transferred here on July the 11th of 2024, because keep in mind what you'll hear later, there was that recorded phone call between him and Jarvis Butts where Jarvis was requesting for King to remove his cell phone from the car. So this is just a standard form here. Okay, so this is going to be the second page that goes along with the first page. Now, this second page, I just want to show you the significance of this form is that it confirms the formal transfer order. Now, as you see, it clearly states that Cordell Wright was transferred from the Reception and Guidance Center, RGC, to Central Michigan Correctional Facility, STF, on July the 11th, 2024, excuse me. This form also highlights some key classification details, such as the prisoner's age, offender number, and the reason for the transfer, which is important here. So, because it's marked as a parole violation or reclassification. Now, this is important because it helps clear up any confusion or speculation about if he could have been transferred for any new or unrelated charges to Ziyah Harris, because that's not what this documentation shows. This document here shows that the reason here is parole violation and the underlying offense is described as domestic violence involving a pregnant individual, third offense. It also notes his last major misconduct as out of place or bounds from 2023. And yes, I have that documentation on that too, and we'll get into that as well. Maybe this video may be a separate one. Now, keep in mind, since Cordell Wright, who some know as King, has been in and out of prison, each time he returns, the records may reflect the prior disciplinary issues or past misconduct. So although King came back to prison in 2024 for a parole violation, because he already served time in 2023, some of that previous history is still documented here as part of his reclassification into prison. Okay, so this next form is the program classification report, and it's from his intake at the prison. It's a pretty standard document, just listing basic details like his arrival date, July the 11th, 2024, which we know. And then you'll also notice where it says life, no, meaning there's an end in sight for him. And as you already know, he's since been released from prison. But one thing that stood out is under the section that says serving for or has a history of, they actually checked off escape. Now that there's no explanation or context given there, but it's definitely something worth noting. You'll also see some black boxes on the form. That's what they chose not to share when they provided the information to me. So that's not what I took off the form. Now below that, they list program recommendations, things like identification cards, social security cards, birth certificates, and routine work assignments. What's interesting is that he did decline several of those options. Of course, it doesn't provide an explanation there or anything. Now, remember, this is part of the intake process for the Michigan Department of Correction. The form shows that he was housed at STF, which stands for St. Louis Correctional Facility. That's a facility located in St. Louis, Michigan, not Missouri. But before he arrived at the St. Louis Correctional Facility, he was actually at the RGC, which is the Reception and Guidance Center. That's the facility where inmates go through initial processing before they're transferred to the actual prison. Now, these documents that are from the RGC, which again, this is where he was housed at before he went to prison, The date the prisoner arrived at the facility was May the 30th, 2024. Okay, so although he arrived at the prison, which was on July the 11th of 2024, he had actually been at RGC since May the 30th, and he was there waiting to be transported, which you'll see this form here. It says Michigan Department of Corrections orientation checklist, intake prisoner facility. It listed there RGC. It says date prisoner arrived at facility May the 30th, date of orientation June the 5th, 2024. Prisoner has a barrier to communication. No. So this is a very standard form, and it's kind of like the form that we just saw for the actual prison, because they housed him before they transferred him over, which again, this date is June. Okay. This date is June the 5th of 2024 that he signed. But at the top, if you look there, it says date prisoner arrived at facility is May the 30th, 2024. Okay, so that's the orientation checklist. Now, the transfer order here, it says his name, his prisoner number, which again, this is all public information that was provided to me when I requested it. It said date transferred 7/11 because that's showing that he was being transferred over to the actual prison. Now, this one here is now I want to go ahead and move forward. Stay with me because I laid the foundation so you all can clearly see when he went into custody, because there was a lot of speculation about that before, especially with the questions surrounding the charges. Now that we've cleared that up, but now that I've gone over the intake documents and confirmed he was housed at RGC as of May the 30th, we can move forward. So let's get into the parole guidelines calculation summary. And just a heads up, in another video, I'm going to cover the actual statements written by people who supported his parole. Some of those names, very interesting. So make sure you lock in for that video as well. But back to this form, you'll see it's got his inmate number, his full name, his parole review date. He went up for his parole review on December the 13th, 2024. His conviction date is listed as February the 13th, 2020, which that's something that we discussed before. Okay, now moving forward, and this is where things are going to start to pick up. There was a notice of intent to conduct a parole board interview. So this was done on February the 3rd of 2025, 8 a.m., which of course we know the outcome because obviously he is out. Now, this is just a pretty standard form. It looks like the purpose of the interview is to assist the parole board in reaching a parole decision. So check only the appropriate boxes. Now, it states here that they understand that they can have one representative of their choice. So this is Cordell, which many refer to him as King. He was acknowledging he can have one representative. So on this next form here, it states that this is the structured decision-making framework worksheet. Okay. And this was completed for King. And it states that his interview was on February the 3rd, 2025. And it states that the policy-based factors, some of the things that were considered here were either low or average or high. And the coding for this, and it was explained. Now, one of the things that may be important to note is because on here it states that the risk factors here was the rationale for coding as aggravating criminal and parole history, and this is prior records only. Consider age of onset, severity, frequency, density, escalation, historical supervision, violations. So all of these things were factors into them coding this as an aggravating factor. And it states that he had a long history for, weapons. And then here it also states here that ability to control behavior. So those were both noted as an aggravating factor, which obviously we know that didn't influence the outcome because in a way that he was prevented from parole because obviously the parole was granted. Now here is another structured decision-making sheet, and it just states here that the parole guidelines. So this just looks like, and it says criminal and parole history. Here again, it says that it was aggravating, ability to control behavior. This was also listed as aggravating, and this was in preparation for the interview. As you can see, it says interview week, February the 3rd, 2025. So it looks like they were completing a number of forms to get prepared for this parole board hearing. Okay, so remember that King went up for parole in 2025 and he was released, but King would have been released prior to that if he was not involved in an incident while he was incarcerated. He would now remember he was housed at the Reception and Guidance Center starting on May the 30th, 2024. Then he transferred to St. Louis Correctional Facility on July the 11th, 2024. But here's where things get interesting. Before he even made it to the prison on July the 11th of 2024, he was already involved in an incident at that facility. So that incident triggered a parole violation and had to go before the parole board. So if it hadn't been for that behavior while he was already incarcerated, he likely would have been released a lot sooner. So here is page 1. Now on page 1, it states Michigan Department of Corrections Parole Board Notice of Action Decision. Keep in mind, I'm referring to the incident that happened prior to him coming to prison and not his 2025 parole board decision, okay? Now it states here that the Michigan Parole Board, having attained jurisdiction over the sentence of the above offender, having considered the facts and circumstances, including the offender's mental and social attitude, and having exercised the discretion granted, the parole board made the following decision. It says the parole board lacks reasonable assurance that the offender will not become a menace to society or to the public safety. Denial of parole is warranted with action as follows. It states that case type parole violation, decision continued, tech violation sustained, decision submitted date July the 29th, 2024, reconsideration date May the 23rd, 2025. Now it does go on to state that the violation charge was on or about May the 23rd, 2024. You engaged in behavior that was threatening or intimidating towards an officer, and it was guilty by plea. And because of that, there was a 12-month fixed term. So before he even got to prison, he was incarcerated, of course, starting in May. He was involved in an incident shortly after arriving to that facility. And because of that incident where they said that he engaged in this behavior, then they continued his parole by 1 year because they found that incident was a violation of his parole. So let's get into what they say happened. So formal hearing, procedural matters. It says Parole was arrested and became available to MDOC on May the 23rd, 2024. So now we know that that's the date he became available to MDOC, May the 23rd, 2024. And it says that a hearing was held on 2 counts of parole violation on May the 31st, 2024, and requested a mitigation hearing, which was scheduled for July the 3rd, 2024. PV, parole violation hearing specialist, was assigned to represent the PVU. And then it says that the attorney was appointed to represent parolee Wright. So King was able to have an attorney at this parole violation hearing. Now, it stated that the attorney, which was his attorney, King's attorney, noted that there are no criminal charges pending or anticipated related to this parole violation. And then it says plea agreement not applicable, summary of testimony, evidence. Parolee Wright pleaded guilty to count 1. On his May the 31st, 2024 hearing, he stated, I was arguing back and forth with the officer with my shirt off. He reports that his anger, my face, my demeanor, and the way I was talking could have been perceived as threatening and or intimidating. King, which is as Wright, acknowledged that he knew it was a violation of parole to engage in behavior that was threatening and or intimidating. Findings of fact, conclusion of law. The admissions of parolee Wright at the arraignment provided a sufficient factual basis for the ALE to find by a preponderance of evidence that he is in violation of count 1. Parolee failed to comply with standard condition 4 of his parole order, which prohibited him from engaging in behavior that was threatening and or intimidating. Parolee Wright engaged in threatening, intimidating behavior towards the officer on May the 23rd, 2024. Per the parole violation summary decision report, Parolee Wright verbally threatened the officer, who instructed him to leave the unit base and put on a shirt. Wright reportedly cussed at the officer and said, "I don't give a care. I'll lace your butt up. I ain't the one. You better not say nothing to me. I ain't one of them. I'll lace your butt up right now." Parolee Wright admitted that he was angry when he spoke to the officer and that his demeanor and statements could have been perceived as threatening and or intimidating. There was no reason for Wright to tell the officer he would lace his there was no reason for Wright to tell the officer I would lace your butt up, except to place him in fear for his physical well-being. Therefore, it is the finding of the ALE that Parolee Wright is guilty of count 1. Count 2 was dismissed by the state for cause. Now, mitigation summary. This is where it gets interesting. Parolee Wright, so King's fiance, she testified. So she came to the hearing and provided testimony. She said that they have been dating for 15 months and engaged for the past 7 months, though they had known each other longer. She provided a letter which will be submitted as an exhibit. I do have that, and I'll play it in the next video. King has been given more than 100%, and she appreciates the effort he has put in to stand in the community. He was not using anything or engaging in criminal activity. He worked with the public and is patient. He really was trying. He will live with her when he is released, which is a better environment than the city. Now, King also provided testimony, and what he said was that he's 37 years old. He paroled in March of 2023. He lived in Detroit and another city, Southfield, but would like to parole to his fiance's home when he is released. He was working at Frank's Auto in Detroit, which we know from the preliminary hearing. He started working there in 2019 and will return to that job. Now, this part is where they redacted it, so that's not me. He successfully completed a year, and some of this is, a year of his ankle monitor, because we know he had the ankle monitor and he had that curfew that he had to be home by 9 p.m. in March of 2024. So it also states that he was previously married. He has 2 children, aged 2 and 17 years old. He sees them on weekends and summer, as well as every other holiday. Both of them are with his ex-wife, which contributed to the incident with the officer. He does apologize for his actions. Now, it states that the parole that King was currently had work assignment on the RGC yard crew. And it also states that the defense submitted 3 letters, which were admitted as Defense Exhibit A without objection. They include a letter from his fiance, a letter from his employer, and a letter from the Social Security Administration verifying that King receives SSI benefits, or Wright receives SSI benefit. According to MDLC records, King completed the following programs during his incarceration. So one of the programs they took out, and he completed the offender program. He has no misconduct since his return to MDOC. So some of you may be wondering why King received the probation violation initially, and why, if he only exchanged words with an officer, did they extend his parole violation by 12 months? Well, here's where things get interesting, and they lay it all out here. It says Cordell Wright was paroled a 15-month term on March the 14th of 2023. This is his first parole on his first formal violation of the term. His adjustment is this. So it was a small adjustment. It says the agent noted King completed, and again, they took that out. He drove without a license on June the 30th, 2023, which resulted in Special Condition 5.0 being added to the parole order. So that was the first one, that he drove without a driver's license. Then he had some GPS violations, which were addressed by the field agent. He was accused of assaulting, and they took that out in December 2023, and he was sanctioned to 10 days at the parole violation unit, which he completed on 12/21/2023. King was arrested 3/26/24 for attempting to pay for companionship with an undercover police officer. So he didn't know that that was an undercover police officer. His parole was continued and MDOC deferred to the court. He failed to report after his release from the hospital on April the 24th of 2024. They arrested him on May the 9th, 2024, and transported him to the parole violation unit, where he was reinstated, and sanctioned to 10 days. Okay. He was serving that sanction when his violation occurred. The current violation is the result of King verbally threatening a corrections officer while at the parole violations unit. He took responsibility from the offset, entering a guilty plea at the hearing. He did not act on his threat, and the officer was not harmed. He was remorseful for his actions. Therefore, the ALE joins in the recommendation of the PVU and defense for re-parole. So keep in mind that this here is reasons for support in the parole board violation. This was back in 2024, vote date July the 26th of 2024. This is when this was done. So obviously we know that, and it says recommendations for corrective action which may facilitate release, demonstrate responsible behavior by avoiding sanctions which result in misconduct citation. So obviously we know that he then adhered to what they put in here, and after adhering to this, he was released this year of July of 2025, because this took place in 2024. Drop your thoughts below. Based on this information, as I said, we now know starting in May of 2024, he was arrested on a PV violation while he was in the parole unit. He picked up another charge. He probably would have been released sooner, but because of the totality of everything, the parole board say, hey, we're going to keep you for a year, and you have to show us, you have to demonstrate to us that you're not going to engage in any other misconducts. If you can do that for a year, then we'll release you. Obviously, he did it, and he is now released. So what are your thoughts about this? Keep in mind, he's not officially charged in the Ziyah Harris case, but I will go ahead and play the Jarvis Butts interrogation. Now, the significance of this is this part is his cell phone. If you recall, there was a prison phone call where Jarvis Butts calls King. Now, listen to this call and tell me if you think that they were speaking in code, because that is what a lot of people think, that they were speaking in code.
Before I turn myself in.
Okay, did you cut the phone off or is it still on?
No, I cut it. I turned it off. It's still on as far as company-wise.
Company-wise, right. Okay. Where did you leave the phone?
It was actually with one of my girlfriends, man, because she brought me.
Hold on, wait.
Wait,
hold on, back up. Let me handle this. You don't understand. I can't understand.
Yeah.
Hold on, I heard you say baby mama, 13 kids,
Yes.
fiance.
Yes.
You live with who do you live with?
Angelina, my
That's the fiance.
Yes.
And you got a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay, player. One of the 5 heartbeats?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I actually used it before I went to sentencing.
Okay. So she has your phone? She had your phone.
From my understanding, the police have my phone.
Now, who did they get it from?
Her.
We asking because we don't know this info.
From my understanding, they conducted a raid on her house.
Okay.
Why are they raiding her house?
I don't know. That's the same thing.
But she had the phone.
But the phone was in her possession.
Okay.
So,
And that's what.
This is a one-time free 3-minute call from an inmate at Wright County Jail. Your phone does not accept collect calls. This call has been provided by Helmets as a courtesy for friends and family. You cannot receive additional calls from this instance until you call prepaid. We can take your credit or debit card information over the phone and connect you immediately back to your phone. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. Press 1 to accept all communications from this. Thank you for using Helmets.
My guy, what's up, man?
Nah, shit, man. What's happening?
Nah, shit, man. How you feeling? My bad, I missed your call. I was working like a motherfucker.
I figured they said you was up there banging, said something banging.
Yeah, you know it.
What's up, my nigga? Who is that, man? What's up, boy?
You know it.
And shit. Man, I'm calling, man. These bitches, they put my money up on motherfucking books, bro.
Oh, yeah, take a minute for them to put that shit on there. Even if you walk in with it, man, they be playing it crazy.
Yeah,
I swear to God. They do that a machine and shit. You show you straight, you need something. I mean, I'm about to give you a couple dollars for that, dude.
Yeah, I have some money on my books, nigga. I came in with money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they put this shit on my hookup. I was looking on the tablet, I didn't come up $0. That's some bullshit.
That shit crazy.
Yeah.
How is it, though?
Man, that's some bullshit. I'm really gonna be quarantined on this whole shit, bro.
Oh, yeah, they got you on that quarantine flow for how long? 3 days?
I don't know how long, nigga. Shit, I'm about to be the only one in this bitch on my part.
You say, what happened?
I said, shit, I'm about to be the only one. Remember me and young enough in this motherfucker, we want these boys on this bitch.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
What you need?
Huh?
No, I was asking what that customer needs. Man, listen. You straight?
Yeah, good, my nigga.
Huh?
So yeah, I'm good, oh, shit, yeah. You got a passion number, right?
Yeah.
So, Dig, I'm gonna need you to call her one day, nigga, and get that truck up there, nigga. Get my phone out there back seat, bro.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I'm supposed to get the truck up there. What am I tell her?
Tell her you gonna, you fuck around and lost your car up there, too, when we was moving the, radio.
Okay.
On the seat. Now,
All right.
You have 1 minute remaining for this call.
Reach behind that back seat.
Where? Yeah.
So you reach behind that back seat, bro. The box right there. Straight behind the middle of that back seat, bro.
Okay, under it or in the back or in the back
In
thing?
the back, right in the back of the seat, bro.
Okay.
On the second row.
I got the key. You know you took the key. You took the key to the gate.
It's the same key.
I don't got that key to it.
Yeah, you do. It's the same key to the lock and the door.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. All right.
Yeah, it's the same key, bro.
Now, you know I got to put the money on the phone later, man. When I get around, baby, I will put the credit card.
About the beginning, I call my wife and have her bring it up to you.
No, I don't need it though. If you said the same one, I got it. So I don't need it right now anyway. Just when I get the scrap out of there.
Okay.
Okay, so you just heard the jail conversation between King and Jarvis. Keep in mind that although King said he was unable to retrieve the cell phone, the police listened in on that call and they went and retrieved the cell phone, which could have been one of the cell phones that had the incriminating text messages between him and Ziyah. However, his defense at the preliminary hearing, his defense said that Jarvis Butts was juggling multiple women, and that could have been a reason why he was wanting King to go retrieve that cell phone. Now, the next upcoming court date for Jarvis Butts regarding Ziyah Harris, well, the next big one will be the jury selection that is set to start October the 6th, unless that gets pushed back or he takes some type of plea deal. Now, moving forward, I do want to play this clip because it's a young lady that says that she drove up to Detroit, Michigan to interview Shannon Harris, which is Ziyah Harris' aunt, and Marquita, which is her sister. Now, if you listen to my previous video that I recently uploaded, this young lady had uploaded one part and now she's uploaded another part. Now, some people are saying that what she's sharing is credible. In her video, there are snippets of Ziyah Harris' aunts in the video. So you will see them in the actual video of when she confronts them. Now, many people are saying she should have went to the police. I'm not sure if she has, but I'm pretty sure that the police are probably looking at social media and maybe questioning them if they feel that it's worthy. So listen to this and drop your comments below. What are your thoughts about this? Please, as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my page. I appreciate everyone and have a good evening.
Another note, and I just wanted to ask you about the Ziyah Harris case. How do you feel, if you don't mind?
We're not being rude.
I just feel like I'm a mother. I'm on your side. You the sister?
Yeah.
You the mom?
Yeah.
No. How do you feel now that they're asking or they're blaming you for what's going on?
Can we ask you,
Are you recording?
I am. You don't
No,
want me
ma'am.
to record?
No,
Okay,
ma'am.
and I want you to watch me. Part 2 of my interview experience with Shannon Harris and her sister, the twin. Literally gonna post it at the end of the clips after I interpret my take on everything that was said. So obviously this is one of the clips when I asked Shannon and her sister, like, what type of guy was Jarvis? Like, what type of guy was he? He didn't give off weird vibes. I already explained to y'all that I asked her, like, what gave Ziyah so much leeway to just go hang out with him, and she said that her daughter Janiyah was the alibi for Ziyah to go hang out with him because he would come get his kids and Ziyah would be like a tag along. So that's when she explained to me that, oh, he was cool, he'll smoke with you. She always talked about smoking with him. She said she'll just pop up at his shop and buy green and little stuff like that, and he was a cool laid-back dude, yada yada yada. He had a lot of hoes. She said he always switched cars because he had so many hoes, he'll just drive their cars or whatever. Something that's kind of distinctive with me after listening to the stuff that y'all saying, and after her telling me that her and Ziyah was pregnant at the same time, she told me this, and if y'all listen to the video, y'all gonna hear it too. This lady says, why everybody asking me why I'm not like grieving or showing any remorse. Like, how y'all expect me to grieve when I just lost my baby? Like, I just had a miscarriage of my own baby, like May 24th. So she said last year, I interviewed them 2025, so she's obviously talking about May 24th 2024. So does that make any sense to y'all? Like, she said, I just lost, listen to the clip, she's like, I just lost my baby last year. How do y'all expect me to grieve about Ziyah? So if she said she lost her baby May 24th 2024, does that make sense? Like, does the time add up for Ziyah to have, like, do y'all get what I'm saying? And then I asked her, like, what was their freedom like? Did they, like, basically you just let them run the streets, you not in contact with her friends, parents, like, you know? And she was like, well, basically throughout the week I'm all about homework, and once the weekends come they can do whatever they want to do. Whoa, wait, I'm tripping. She said she lost her baby May 4th 2024. Okay, so she like, everybody asking me why, or like why I'm not grieving, and I'm like, how you expect me to grieve when I lost my baby May 4th of last year? So last year from this year would be in 2024. And she was like, basically like, I'm just trying to see if that timing is timing. Do y'all get what I'm saying? If y'all get what I'm saying, like, I'll explain it. So I also asked her, like, so y'all not gonna do like a funeral, memorial, homegoing, nothing, no service in reference to Ziyah? And she said her mom, which is the grandmother, is not doing anything until she get a death certificate. You know, basically saying that she's unalived.
So, as y'all can see, literally every question that I asked the twins, my best friend answered it. And then I'll try to repeat the question. And it's like, as soon as Shannon get in the groove of talking, my best friend just answers the question like we're interviewing her. She probably didn't realize it or whatever because she was high. But it was just like, God, I didn't realize it either until I let other people listen to it. And they like, God, you asked some good questions. And I even told her that, like, when we was, like, after the bowling alley, when we was in Shannon's car, asking her questions, she was asking some good questions. But it was really time to go because we got set up. They set us up or whatever like that. So it's like, I really wish that we would have just shut the fuck up and let them thoroughly answer the question. Also, when I had asked, like, so y'all don't have no clues, no evidence, nothing in mind, I asked her that twice. And I asked her that before we went out, and then I asked her that 4 lemon drops and a whole zip-a-zot later. And after the 4 lemon drops and the whole zip-a-zot later, that's the same thing she said, y'all. When I asked for clues, where the body was, y'all can hear her sister in the background saying the park. She mentioned something about the park. And when we was in the truck, 4 lemon drops later, a zip-a-zot later, and I asked her again, she was like, I believe Ziyah is in that park. I said, that's crazy. I said, have they searched there? She said, yeah. They had a search team. The different people in different neighborhoods came out. They were searching the park, but I'm pretty sure 9 times out of 10, that's where Ziyah would be because that's where she hung out at. So I'm just thinking, like, first of all, I asked you, did you think Jarvis did it? You like, nah. With the evidence they got, you just nod your head. Like, with the evidence they got, so who do you think would have did it? That's what I should have asked her. Like, okay, if Jarvis didn't do it, who do you think would have did it? You already told me your frustrations with her, with you being pregnant by your baby daddy and her being pregnant by your baby daddy at the same time. I mean, naturally, a woman's instincts would become frustrated. Not frustrated enough to unalive my family member. Like, if anything, unalive him. And when I am done uploading all the footage before we went out, everybody keep asking me for the story time on how they set us up and what happened in the car and what happened at the bowling alley. Y'all, I'm gonna get to that. Like, if y'all just want a rush story or a rush process, I just upload all this shit and y'all can piece this shit together. Stop doing it, because that's really frustrating. But good night.
Cool ass nigga, like you pull up, you want to smoke.
Person,
Just
was
most definitely never like, seen no type of this side of him. What person, what man or woman inside their right mind is gonna say, "Hey, I'm a pedophile"?
Yeah,
still
nobody.
Nobody is gonna say to come out and let me and say, "Oh, I'm this, I'm that." You know what I'm saying? And like when I first met his sister. I reached out to her on Facebook. The first time she ever seen my daughter, my first child, when my daughter was 9 months old.
You got some pretty ass kids. You
like
and him ain't got no kids together?
Who?
You and Jarvis?
All 5 of my kids belong to him.
Damn.
All 5 of them.
Damn.
All 5. And people keep saying it's like, oh, I'm not showing.
I feel like
grief,
the sister.
No emotion. How can you? If I lost the baby before I even knew my own daughter, my own niece was gone. I was pregnant around the same time. I lost my baby last year, May 4th. So how? I'm still grieving. So how can you tell someone?
So you lost your baby? That's crazy.
I would have 6 kids. So,
but everybody grieve different too, so that people can't push up on you and expect you to just be crying at them.
So y'all having that funeral or any memorial?
My mom is not doing anything until she gets something inside her hand saying she got a death certificate. She's not doing anything. And then
another thing, have y'all found any clues besides the school ID and stuff like that?
No.
Or do y'all feel like where do y'all even start type shit?
And that's the thing.
Where do you
start besides we don't know.
Besides the areas that she been in, the 3 mile park around with her friends.
That's it.
Right.
Like,
where else? It could be anywhere.
Because Ziyah, like y'all mother, We a mother. Our kids is on during the week. They on an I-10 bike 10. You wanna come home, do your homework. That's it. On the weekend, on the weekend, you gotta a little bit more wiggle room to do whatever you want to do.
I don't know much about their city, so I know y'all probably wondering what part. Hell, I was wondering what part too. But 9 times out of 10, she said a park by her school. A park by her school that her homegirls used to hang out at, whatever. And then another thing, y'all, I had asked her, like, did Ziyah just run away or whatever? She said no, Ziyah had no reason to run away.